As many people know, the U.S. is accredited for the most violent and gruesome acts of slavery. Having grown up in the U.S., many of us have never really been taught the full history of slavery, only learning about the 1 million slaves who came to the U.S. and never accounting for the other millions who were brought to the New World. We always learn about slavery in terms of where we live, as if we had led the slave trade, when in reality, we were following the lead of other nations. Throughout this video, I intend to sit down with the various individuals to see just how much they've been taught about the subject and hopefully provide them with a little more insight. What many people don't know is that Portugal is responsible for being both the first and last nation to use African people as slaves. This all started with Mansa Musa in 1324 and his Hajj to Mecca. As he brought over 70,000 people and 24,000 pounds of gold with him, European superpowers just had to see these people for themselves, as the darkest people they had ever seen were North Africans. In 1415, 21-year-old Prince Henry of Portugal sent his men to bring him back specimens of the people with whom Mansa Musa traveled. After studying the men who were brought back, they were turned into personal servants, quickly becoming a popular commodity amongst the royals and the wealthy of Europe. It wasn't until the discovery of the New World and the founding of Brazil as a Portuguese colony that Portugal's leaders began to use Africans as slaves for economic gain. It's background information like this that seems to be omitted from basic history courses.
Yeah, I'd say Britain then.
Britain?
Especially with their colonization of India and
The Netherlands.
it was the Dutch.
The UK.
I don't know. Maybe like England.
Is it the Mayan Empire? That's an empire.
Russia.
Canada? I don't know. Just say country. South Africa.
The US. I would say the US too, probably.
Like the US.
Europe?
France.
I'm going Belgium still.
As just seen, many obviously have never been exposed to enough of slavery's history or its origins. Even when putting other nations aside and focusing on the atrocities performed within the US, foreign influence is still prevalent. While chattel slavery was a very American phenomenon, it is a product of the failures experienced by European nations who lived amongst the slaves in South America. After witnessing the Portuguese and Spanish tactics to control their slaves, the British took notice of their mistakes and in turn created their own new system. The European leaders in South America had failed in their attempts to overpower their slaves, since the populations of the colonies were mostly African, outnumbering the Europeans. They also kept bringing new slaves, which caused major obstacles in getting them to abandon their African roots. British leaders decided to have the population evenly split between blacks and whites in order to avoid such rebellion, as well as focusing on generational slavery. In result, chattel slavery became the norm across the US, through which innocent African people were stripped of all their rights, were dehumanized, and suffered immensely.
Africa's not a country.
The
Philippines.
No. America.
Oh, the US. I think they're all pretty bad. Maybe like child slavery, Coney 2012.
I have no idea. I don't know what slavery was like. Africa?
Africa.
Africa.
You know, super profitable.
Too. I think they thought it was because it was a new land and they needed to become greater, and that's how they built up their entire who they were.
Because a superiority complex in white Americans.
Because weren't they like, before they had moved to America, they were under the control of like a monarchy. So probably like just newfound control.
People needed... Actually, I'm gonna go with that there were no laws to stop it. So they just kept going.